Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's tutorial we're going to start a new series on the channel, and you're going to be in this series we're going to be covering how to do web development using Python as the Python library for the whole application. Okay, you're going to be using specifically you're going to be using Django application. So if you're anyone who is interested in building your own web application using Python, like you're doing user registration, user login, user logout, creating different user can be able to add stuff to the database, retrieve stuff from the database, update existing content, delete existing content, then this tutorial is for you. So we're going to be covering all of this in Python. You're going to be learning all the basics of how to build a web application in Python. So we're going to be using the library called Django. So in this tutorial I assume that you already know a bit of Python already. So if you know a bit of Python, then feel free to follow along. You don't need to have any prior experience using Django before. You're going to explain everything from a fundamental point of view. Okay, so one thing I also expect you to know is the basics of HTML, and you're also going to be using Bootstrap. If you know what Bootstrap is, don't worry, it's just a CSS, but that already has a lot of the CSS library that has a lot of pre-written styles that you can use. You don't have to waste time writing our own styles, right? So that's basically it, what you're going to do. So this is just a simple application. So let me just show you how the application is going to work. So before user can be able, it's just going to be let me just mention this, it's just going to be a simple note app application whereby user can create notes, update notes, delete notes, and retrieve notes from the database and then display it to the end user. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do ahead is deal with the user authentication system, like user registration, user login, and user logout. So let me just show you how the user is going to be able to log in. So I'm just going to go ahead. First we need to register a user, right? So I'm going to simply register username Prince, and I'm going to give you this email, and then just change some things here just to make the email unique, and then I'm going to have pass in my password here, and then repeat the same password right here. So I'm going to repeat the same password, and then once I have that, I can simply click on register. So once it's done, you can see the account created successfully for Prince. So our account has been created. So now that I have that account created, I can simply go ahead and use the same credentials to log in. So I provided my username, and I'm going to provide in the password that I used in registering this user, and I can simply click on login. So once I have that, I'm logged in, and you can see it has changed up here. So you can log out of the system, or you can create a note app. So I'm just simply going to click on create note, and I'm going to give it a title. So I'm going to say test not title, and then down here I'm going to simply say test not content, just like that, and simply click on create, and that's going to create the note right. So you can see the note right there. So let me just go ahead and create another note. So let's just say test not title 2, and I'm going to repeat the same here. So I'm going to say test not title 2. Okay, title 2 content. This will be test note content 2, just like that, and simply hit on the create button. So you can see now we have those two notes created here, right here. So you can see the name of the node who has been created by. You can see we're currently logged in as Prince. You can see this node has been created by Prince. You can update this node. You can just go here and say updated, so updated, and then I can simply click on this one. You can see now it has been changed to updated. You can also update the title to be updated if you want. So updated. Okay, so I actually have a limitation of how long the text can be, so that you can only have that amount of text inside. Later on you can see you can change it. So I'm just going to change it to be updated, just like this, updated for this, and then simply click. You can see now it has been updated. So you can see the date has been created on 7th of August, the time which is 9 a.m. right now by Prince, right? Because people who are logged in. So you can see that's also been ordered depending on the latest to the least latest. So this is the latest one, right? This is the least latest one. So you can also go ahead and delete this. And guys, are you sure you want to delete this post or this note? You can just simply click on yes, delete. It has been deleted. Okay, so yeah, that's basically the application. Also, we can go ahead and simply log out of the system. You can see you have been logged out, and you can click on login again. Now I'm going to log in as an admin. So I have an admin account, also another account called admin. I'm going to log in as that admin account, and let's see what we have. So we can see that we cannot see the notes of Prince, right? You can only see the note of the admin, because each person is responsible for their own notes. So if you didn't create a note, then you can't update the notes. You can only update and see the notes that you have already created, right? So you can see the notes that other people have already created. You can't update the notes that other people have already created. So that's basically how the application is going to be like. So that's basically it. And you also have an admin page where you can see the user's information. So let me just take you to the admin page. So I'm just going to go here and simply type in admin. and then simply go to the admin page and then simply log in as the admin. So my username is admin, and then provide in my password here. So once my password is provided, I'm able to log in. So I can go ahead and click on users. I can see I have two users, the admin user and the Prince user. If I go on notes, because we have the two notes, this note right here, and this note is owned by Prince. So if I go ahead, I can just go ahead and save. If I click on this note, the other note, which is this one right here, it is is owned by the author of this note is admin. So that's basically how we can create a different note. You can even add a different note from here and then choose the author of that note because you are the admin of the page, right? So yeah, that's basically it, how you can create notes and do different stuff on the admin page. We'll look at all this in Django and how all this work in the upcoming tutorial. So you guys, if you're new to the channel, please kindly consider subscribing, liking this video, and sharing this content with anyone who you think might find this helpful. So in this tutorial, what I want us to do is, first I'm just going to log out of this system, log out, and then go back to the, let me just say out page. Let me just go here and say out, and then /register right here, and just back to the registration page. So once I have this done, this is where the application is running. Application is running right here in my terminal. Again, if you're new to all this, don't worry and don't be frightened by all this. Actually very simple, and we'll go over all of them just in the upcoming videos. So what I want to do right now is to actually begin to create a simple project, set up our project, and then from next we'll begin to actually do the user registration system. So let me just go ahead and deactivate my current virtual environment, and then move back to let me just go into change directory back, and then also change directory into my tutorials folder. And once I'm in my tutorials folder, I'm going to create another file. I'm going to call it mkdir. I'm going to call this one let me see, what should I call it? Let me just call it Django not application, not app. Okay, so I'm just going to call it that, and then simply change into my Django not app. So once I'm inside of the not app, I'm going to go ahead and create a virtual environment. Well, the code I'm going to use to create this, the command I'm going to use to create this virtual environment is different from one operating system to the other. So if you're on a Windows machine, the command I'm going to use is not going to work for you. So if you're on a MacBook or a Linux machine, it's going to work for you. So if you're on Windows, Windows users, just do a quick Google search on how to create a virtual environment in Windows, and that should give you the details. If I remember, I'm going to leave the link, is going to be in the description on how to create a virtual environment on Windows. But in this tutorial, I'm not going to go over how to create a virtual environment in Windows. Okay, so if you guys have any issues with creating a virtual environment in Windows, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. Okay, so once I'm inside of my Django not app folder, I'm simply going to go ahead and simply do, if I do an ls, you can see it has nothing inside. The ls of its equivalent on Windows is dir. Okay, just to view the content of a given directory. In this case, we have nothing inside of our directory, so I'm going to go ahead and simply create my Python virtual environment. And to do that, I'm going to type in the following code. Again, this is only going to work for guys who on MacBooks or Linux machine. Okay, so if you're on Windows, kindly do a quick Google search on how to create a virtual environment on Windows. It's very simple. So once that's done creating the virtual environment, if I do an ls, you can see I have a folder in there called venv. Okay, so this part of the command must be exactly as it is appears here, but this part of the command, this name right here, you can change it to be anything. So this is the name of the folder of the virtual environment. So you can see these two names right here are the same, right? So if you if you can give it another name if you want, you can give it env or vnv or any other name that you want, but mostly by convention it's called venv, virtual environment, or env for short for environment. Okay, so once we have the virtual environment created, I'm going to go ahead and activate it. Again, the command I'm going to use to activate the virtual environment is going to be different from operating system to operating system. So the command I'm going to use here is going to work for Linux users and Mac users if you're using a MacBook, right, or a Linux machine. But if you're on a Windows machine, this is not going to work for you. So do a quick Google search on how to make sure that how to activate a virtual environment on Windows. Okay, so having said that, I'm going to go ahead and simply say source, right? So let me say source venv/bin/activate. So you can see we have to say source and then the name of the virtual environment. In my case is venv. So instead of this venv folder, we have another folder called bin, and instead of that you have something called activate. So if you just run that, you can see our virtual environment is going to be activated. And how do you know that it's activated? You can see the name of the virtual environment in parentheses in front of the line, which was not on the other previous line. Right, so you can see it only appears on this line. So this shows that your virtual environment is activated. Okay, so the name of a folder is what is going to be instead of parentheses in front of the line instead of the terminal. That shows that your virtual environment is activated. Great. So once we have that activated, let me just go ahead and let me just reposition this a bit. So I'm just going to move this window up here. So I'm going to navigate to this window. So in here, I'm just going to go ahead and close this and then go in here. So go and search for Django. Let's go to Google and search for Django. I thought that you're going to be using Django inside of this series, right? To learn how to build web applications in Python using Django. So just go ahead and search for Django on the internet and just go ahead and click on the first link right here. So once you click on it, to bring you to this page, click on the documentation section, which is in the navigation bar, and once you have that, click on install. And once you click on install, just scroll to the very bottom, and then click on write your first Django app. Go to next, and once we are in there, we need to go ahead and install Django. So to install Django is actually very simple. Let me just go back in here. You can search that installation information here on the documentation, but just to save time, I'm going to go ahead and install it right here. So I'm going to say pip install Django. Okay, so just run enter, and that's going to go ahead and install the Django library inside of our virtual environment, which is going to be separate from our global Python environment and our global Python dependencies. So once we have that Django already installed, let's go back to the documentation and let's see what they say. So we can actually go ahead and do this, and they should return to you the version of Django. So that's what the documentation says. So I'm just going to run it again, and we're running Django 4.1. Okay, so once we have this done, I'm going to go ahead and simply create a simple project. You're going to call our simple project, you're going to call it a Note app. Okay, so let's say Django-admin start project, and then the name of that project. In this case, it's site, but we're going to give it our own name, right? So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to simply say Django-admin, get the spelling right, admin start project, and the project is going to be called, I'm going to call it Note app. Okay, just call it Note app or whatever you want, but I'm going to call it Note app, and then press enter. Once we do that, you can do an ls, or if you're on Windows, it's dir, and you should be able to see the Note app right here, the folder of the Note app. So great. Now let's go back to documentation and let's see what they tell us to do next. So once we have that done, they are talking about they're explaining the project directory. So let me just go ahead and explain to you the project directory. So I'm going to be using Jupyter, Visual VS Code for this. So if you're you can feel free to use any editor that you're comfortable using, such as Sublime, Atom, or any editor that you're comfortable using, PyCharm. But I'm going to be using VS Code, so I'm just going to go ahead and simply open up my VS Code. So once my VS Code has gone ahead and opened up, so I can just go into my Notes app right here. So instead of my Notes app, you can see I have another folder in there called Notes app. Okay, so you can see you have this one right here. You have this folder. I'm just going to explain just a brief. So this is the init file. Okay, if you have worked with Python, you probably know what an init file does. You can see the HGI file, the HTML file. You can read more about the HTML file and whatever it does. This just exposes some HCI callable module level variables, okay, so that's to your application. Basically, we have the settings file, and you're going to work in the settings file a lot. I don't want to, this is just the first video, so I don't want to bore you with a lot of information, but you're going to work with this app a lot. And you have our urls.py folder, and you'll be working these folders a lot, and we'll explain all of them just in the future and upcoming videos. We also have manage.py file, and this file is very, very important to running our application and doing all of that stuff. We'll look at it in the upcoming videos. Okay, so I don't want to bore you with all the application because it's just the first video. You can, if you're interested, you can go ahead and read more about it here. Okay, so once you have done that, you can simply go ahead and simply start start a server. So to start a server is actually very simple. So you can go back in the terminal. Let me just also shift this somewhere else. Let me just also keep this right here, and let me just go in here, and then I also want to move this right here. So yeah, so it's going to be like this. Okay, yeah, I like that format. Okay, so once I have that done, I'm just going to do an ls to see where I am. So I'm going to change directory into my Note app application. So I'm in there. You can see manage.py, and I have a folder called Note app. So to run the server, to run your Django server, you have to simply say python 3 manage.py, and then simply say run server, and that's going to go ahead and start your development server running on localhost at port 3000. So you can simply copy this and paste it inside of your browser, but I'm just going to go ahead and do a shortcut here, which is on if you're on Linux, or I think it's on MacBook, you can just press Control and click on this to take you to this web page. Or if you're on Windows, you have to copy it, create a new window and paste it inside there. Okay, so I'm just going to use a shortcut, and you can see the application is already open up here. So if you start a new Django application, this is how it looks like. Okay, so we have our Django application already started up. Okay, but if you go back into the terminal, you can see we have some warnings right here saying that your project may not work properly until you apply the migrations to this. Okay, so to apply the migration, we have to simply run this code right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and simply stop my development server by hitting Control and C on my keyboard, and then I'm going to run this command right here, Python, let me just say Python 3 or Python, and then manage.py, and then migrate. So migrate just like this, and migrate is going to go ahead and set up all our database that Django comes with. So Django comes with a couple of databases, and this migration is this running Python 3 manage.py.migrate migrate, and then it's going to go ahead and simply start all your development, all your default databases that Django comes with. Okay, so once we have this done, we can go ahead and do a lot of stuff with this. So Django comes to a lot of database for authentication, user registration, so that you don't have to worry about all of that. Okay, so once we have that done, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and you can go ahead and simply start the application again, run the server command. So Python 3 manage.py run server, and you can see now we don't have any warnings, right? We're running our application fine. Okay, great. So now once we have this done, I want to go ahead and show you that Django has a default admin page that Django comes with. So I want to go ahead and show you that. So you can simply go in here and then go to /admin and just press enter. Now we have the admin page here, so we can log into the admin page. Now what's your username and what's your password? Now I don't know that because we never created any user, so we don't know what the username and password is. So I just hit Control C again to stop my development server, and I'm going to simply go ahead and clear my terminal. So once I'm here, you can go ahead and create a super user if you want. So I'm going to say Python 3 manage.py and then say create super user, and then simply press enter. So it will ask you for a name. You can just say admin. My email, I'm just going to pass in my email right here, and then simply pass in your password, which I'm going to pass in my password here, and then repeat the same password. Well, once that is done, you can see the user has been successfully created. So what's the super user? So the super user is just an admin of a site. So if you go back in here, you can provide the super user information, which is the name. We say the user name was admin, and then I provided my password, right? So using those the usernames and the password that I used right here, I can be able to log into that admin page. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to simply run the command to start my development server again, and it's going to be Python 3 manage.py and then run server, and then simply press enter, and that server is running. So I'm going to go back to my web page, simply hit refresh right here, and then simply pass in the names I have, so admin, and then pass in my password. Okay, the password that I used to register the admin user. Okay, and then press enter, and now you can see now we are logged into the admin page. So this is now the Django admin page. So you can see you don't have to do anything to get this admin page. It comes by default, right? So if I click on the users section, you can see I have the users, I have the admin user right here, and you can see all the admin users information and all that, the last the date they joined, the last login, and all that information. So Django comes with all of this right off the box. You don't have to sweat to get all this done. Okay, so yeah, that's basically it, and we have been able to simply set up our application. Right, simply set up a Django application, simple Django application. So the next tutorial, what I want us to do is to look at how to set up our own route and do a user registration. So that's all for this tutorial. If you guys enjoyed this tutorial so far, please can make sure that you like the video, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and so that whenever I upload other videos, you guys can get information about other videos. Okay, so once you are done using the admin page, you can just click on logout, and that's going to log you out of the admin page. You can click on login again to bring you back here. Okay, yeah, so guys, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the tutorial so far, please kindly make sure that you like the video, you share with your friends, and you subscribe to the YouTube channel for the next video where we are going to deal with the user registration system. Okay, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Keep safe.